Today's topic is backups. Where's your data? So let me go ahead and share my screen with you here. So whenever we talk about backups, we need to talk about both your online and your offline data. Okay, so two separate things. Online, so what and where is your data there? Basically, your data is in the cloud. It's encrypted on the world-class server infrastructure of Amazon Web Services. And we also incorporate advanced security solutions that give you the same level of data protection as an online bank. So your data is safe and secure. So that's something to know as we go into kind of your backups and your options, et cetera. You've always got that online component of the data that you access daily. So that's your online data. It's all transactions that are added are on the system for 10 years, which is years beyond what state regulations require. So you're set there. It's accessible, it's searchable, et cetera. Okay, so again, that's your online component. Then we've got your offline backups. Okay, let's start with your monthly on-site backups. Now, those exist for offices that want the added comfort of having on-site backups, or just want to make sure that they've got their data offline in case they cancel in the future, the trouble of downloading their backups each month. Okay, so a couple of options there. So let's look at how to actually perform the download. Let me hop over to Pipeline here. From your dashboard, if you click Monthly Backup, you can easily download your backup here. The backups, you'll get a notification each month, of a few days into the month, to download the previous month's backup. And again, you come here, click Download, and download that to a local source. All right. The downloads will be available for 30 days, sometimes a little longer, but you shouldn't count on that. They'll be there for 30 days. Now, what's included in your backups? The backups will automatically, again, they'll happen each month. At the beginning of the month, you'll get it for the previous month's download. And they'll include all transactions that were added during that month, as well as anything that got closed, expired, or fell through. So anything in those transaction statuses, okay? It'll automatically include all of those unless under your admin settings, you select only include completed transactions and monthly backups. If you check this option, then the backups will only include those that got closed, basically closed, fell through, or expired. Okay, so that's an option. And those are for offices that want to only have a single iteration of a transaction in their backups, namely that final snapshot. Let me actually show you here. Here is a download, and you can see the way that they're arranged here is it'll start with the location. So if I go into if I've got multiple locations in my account, it'll show the different locations, and then if the transaction I'm looking for is within, let's say, the Dallas location, I'll double click that. You see they're all arranged in folders here, so all types of computers can access them. So let's say I want to go into 875 G Street, and I'll nicely have all of my information, including notes, email history, checklist information, everything. And then each folder, each permission category will have its own folder of docs. You might have also noticed, let's hop over to a transaction here. You might have also noticed that whenever you're editing any transaction, you'll see this include the transaction in August or the next month's backup. This option is there for any time that you want to force a transaction to be included in a backup. Like I mentioned, transactions will naturally be included in the backup if they're new or they closed, expired, fell through, etc. But if you wanted to specifically say, I want 6235 Crossley Lane to be included in next month's backup, I would actually go ahead and check that box. Okay, and it'll be included in next month's backup. And then once it's backed up, it'll automatically be unchecked. All right. Okay, so those are your offline backups, your monthly offline backups. You can also download individual transactions. Instead of an aggregate like that, you can download transactions individually. So if you were to click download transaction, if an admin were to click download transactions, they can download a full transaction that way. And that's for use when you need to, let's say, download a full transaction and hand it over to an agent or a client, etc. Now, since those are full downloads, you want to be sure as the admin that you remove, because it's got all the data for that transaction, that you remove any data that should not, the person who you're handing it over to should not have access to. Okay. Now, if there's an agent that is trying to, this doesn't obviously have much data, but if there's an agent that simply needs to get access to or have offline all of the documents associated with the transaction after it's completed, or you need to just deliver the documents for whatever reason, the easiest way to do that, and let me go to a transaction that's got some docs here, is to mail them to the person or have the agent mail them to themselves. So, and the way they do that is to actually add a note, select themselves as the recipient, and then click that top checkbox to select all the docs. Alrighty, so that is how to download individually. And that's actually a good segue into how to use your backups for audits, because downloading them individually is an option for that. So let's dive into how to use your backups in case you find yourself under an audit. If you do, typically an auditor will have a list of transactions that they need to audit. So the first option to obtain those is to go to your monthly backups if you've downloaded those offline. You can go to identify which transaction it is, when it closed, and then go to the appropriate backup and extract it from there. If you don't download your monthly backups, or just as a second option, you can do the individual transaction downloads. So when you're on the transaction, download the transaction there. Okay. So again, you've got that list from the auditor, identify which transactions they are, go to each one and download them. Another option is to give the auditor online access. Easier for both you as well as the auditor to be able to go into Pipeline just as you do and search for the transaction that they need to audit and go ahead and access it that way. So basically you give them a user profile under Manage Users, give them the appropriate permissions that they should have in order to see the transactions they need to see, and then when they're done, deactivate that profile. All right. And then the last way is if you find yourself in a scenario where you're not able to get the transactions that you need or download them, etc., always contact us. We're willing to help support you whenever you're under an audit to get the information that you need. All right. Also, I wanted to talk about the archive plan. I touched on that briefly earlier. And that's where you get to, or you've got the option, if you decide to cancel, to convert to an archive plan. So if you decide that you don't want to do the monthly backups and just rely on moving to the archive plan, if you ever decide to cancel, then that's an option. It's $20 a month. It allows you the same access that you've got here, searching, filtering, being able to view the information, the history, etc. But you can't add new transactions. That's the main limitation. Also, the monthly backups are not included. You wouldn't need them at that point because you're not adding any or closing any transactions. All right. And again, that's $20 a month. It would happen at the time or any decision to cancel. So if you ever did decide to cancel, you just let us know. I'd like to convert to the archive plan, and we'd archive you at that point. No need to do anything preliminarily, other than not needing to download your backups. All right. And then one last logistical item, and that is large backups. If you've got a large company, so you've got large backups, or as you grow, your backups get larger. Just logistically, you want to be sure that they download fully. So we encourage you, whenever you download a backup file, that you open it just to confirm that it opens properly. That means that it downloaded fully. If it didn't, it wouldn't open. So that's a good check, is to, again, just open it up once you've actually downloaded it. And that is it for all about backups.